Hi, I'm Gary Houchins, Professor of Education Administration at Western Kentucky University. Today I want to tell you about a new report from the Thomas B. Fordham Institute that grades every state based on the quality of the social studies standards teachers are supposed to use to guide instruction in K-12 schools. Sadly, Kentucky social studies standards earned a C in the Fordham report with significant revisions strongly recommended. I'll post a link below that will take you to the full Fordham report, plus additional information on Kentucky social studies standards. Fordham rated each state's standards in two areas, civics and history. The report found that many of Kentucky's standards were too vaguely written to provide useful guidance to teachers, especially at the high school level, and that the coverage of topics like the Bill of Rights, the electoral process, and federalism were, quote, inexplicably cursory. In other words, it was astounding to the reviewers how little Kentucky standards expected students to learn about these crucial topics. Fordham's reviewers recommended that Kentucky standards be significantly revised to offer much more specific guidance to teachers, especially at the high school level. Fordham suggests that Kentucky standards should provide more detail about the powers, organization, and functions of the three branches of government, the Bill of Rights, elections, and federalism. These findings from the Fordham report line up exactly with my own concerns about Kentucky social studies standards. This is a topic that's especially personal to me, both because I started my career as a middle school social studies teacher and because I served on the Kentucky Board of Education from 2016 to 2019, and I chaired the board's Curriculum, Instruction, and Assessment Committee that was responsible for reviewing and approving the standards. I provided extensive feedback on these standards and helped shepherd them through the approval process. In fact, the Kentucky Council for the Social Studies recognized me in 2019 with an award for my efforts to get these social studies standards approved. So why do I now feel like the Fordham Institute may have been too generous in giving these standards a grade of C? At the time, I supported these standards mostly because they were infinitely superior to the even vaguer social studies standards that came before them and that went for many years without review or revision. I trusted the teachers who drafted these standards using the process developed by the Kentucky Department of Education. But the last year has made me realize that many of the critics of these new standards had it right all along. The standards themselves, while better than before, are still way too vague. There are essential concepts, historical figures, events, and ideas that get no mention at all in Kentucky standards. Meanwhile, we have an all-out war on American history underway in K-12 education, and it started long before people took notice of the role that critical theory was playing in the decisions teachers make about what gets taught and how. We saw the fruits of it on display in the media and in America's streets over the last year, with statues of abolitionists like Abraham Lincoln and Ulysses Grant being torn down by mobs, and ideologically driven pseudo-history like the 1619 Project widely promoting the idea that America's founding principles are illegitimate and its institutions irredeemably racist. America is so deeply divided in part because American civics and history has been poorly taught, and because in some cases it is being deliberately mistaught to indoctrinate students in radical, inaccurate, and negative attitudes toward our country for the express purpose of promoting a Marxist transformation of our economy, politics, and culture. Improving state social studies standards won't by itself fix this problem, of course. In the long run, we need far more transparency about what's being taught in our schools and how, and for parents and the public to be far more engaged with educators in discussions about these topics. But as a bare minimum, Kentuckians should insist core concepts like the Bill of Rights and essential figures like Abraham Lincoln should have a place in our classrooms. It's time for Kentucky's lawmakers to heed this kind of feedback from the Thomas B. Fordham Institute and insist that improvements be made. Thanks for listening. Like and subscribe so you'll be aware when more content is posted.